8:25. Well, after last Thursday's shooting in Springfield after a traffic accident, a lot of the discussion has kind of taken place around the whole idea of, when can you use a deadly weapon? And when can you use it to supposedly protect your life? And what are the stipulations under Oregon law? And how do you go about making that particular decision that you're going to pull the trigger? Joining us from Defensive Firearms Instruction, it is Donovan Beard on the Wake Up Call. Donovan, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about you. First off, thanks for your service. You were in the Marines and did a couple of tours of duty, right?
I did.
Fallujah, one of the worst places in Iraq.
Yep. So
that must have been fun.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say it was fun, but it was definitely an experience that, has gotten me where I am today.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the business itself, Defensive Firearms Instruction. Most folks would probably think, okay, this is someplace where you go to get your concealed carry license, but actually you do quite a bit more and higher level training with more than just folks that just want to get the concealed carry, right?
That's right. We spend a lot more time working with DPSST, which stands for the Department of Public Safety Standard and Training. We work with their private security, program. I'm an instructor for, the unarmed program as well as the armed program. Our company also offers baton, handcuffing, pepper spray, and then we have concealed handgun licensing as well as a lot of tactical weapons manipulation courses, whether that be a tactical handgun, tactical carbine, tactical shotgun, and we're soon to be releasing a long-range precision rifle course.
Okay, so let's just start off with the basics. What does Oregon law specifically say about when it is okay for you to use a firearm or a deadly weapon? Let's put it that way, to protect yourself.
So what we really need to do is we need to look at Oregon Revised Statutes 161.209 all the way through Oregon Revised Statutes 161.219. And that is pretty laid out when they're talking about unlawful use of force, lawful use of force. So, and I'm going to paraphrase that. It says that if someone is threatening or using immediate physical force on you, that you, as a private citizen, are justified in using, an equal amount of force or correct amount of force to protect yourself or a third party. And that can be really kind of a complex definition. When we're looking at that, it's not exactly as straightforward as we'd really like it to be. So I'm going to reference DPSST with their ARM program. An easy way to articulate this is in order for you to justifiably utilize deadly force, you need to first identify someone as having the means, the opportunity, and the intent to cause you or a third party death or serious physical injury. All three of those elements need to exist together at the same time, and the threat needs to be imminent. Having said that, what is...
So just a guy walking up going, you pissed me off, I'm going to kick your ass is not enough of a threat.
Not exactly. So, here's what we need to look at. First of all, means. Does that person have a weapon? Do they have something that could be used as a weapon? A weapon, per legal definition, is an instrument, article, or substance. An instrument is something that is, specifically designed for and readily capable of causing death or serious physical injury.
Like if they have a gun or a knife.
Like if they have a gun or a knife. An article is something that is not specifically designed for, but is readily capable of causing death or serious physical injury. For example,
baseball bat.
A baseball bat or a golf club. A golf club, what's a golf club designed to do? It's designed to hit golf balls. However, if someone was to take a golf club and strike somebody over the head, is that capable of causing death or serious physical injury? Absolutely. And then substance, we're referring more towards, poisons and things like that. So means. Then we have opportunity. Is that person within a close enough range to actually use whatever weapon system that they have or something that can be used as a weapon on you? And then we have intent. Intent is straightforward enough when someone, presents a weapon, they're close enough to use it, and they say, communicate to you either verbally or non-verbally their intention to use it. We really kind of need to, use common sense. And, to be an asset to our community, what that means is that we are defaulting to common sense, which is backed by Oregon Revised Statutes. If we are an asset to our community, that means we're taking into consideration even all the additional factors in our use of force decision.
Okay, so a guy is standing within 20 feet of me. He's got a knife. He's not moving closer, but he's saying, if you don't give me your wallet, I'm going to slit your throat. At that point, with him 20 feet away, I mean, obviously he's not going to be able to just reach out. He's going to have to run towards him, but he's just standing there, not moving forward. Is that a situation where you could use deadly force?
And that's one of those gray areas. We also need to look at something called totality of circumstances, which is all the underlying factors. So let me take that same situation that you said.
Sure.
Let's say we have a man who is 10 feet away from you, and he's got a knife, and he's communicating his intention to use that to cause you death or serious physical injury. Straight down the line, is that pretty clear-cut, justified use of force? I'm sure it is. But let's switch this around just a little bit and say that it's a 90-year-old man in a wheelchair. Does that necessarily mean that we need to utilize force? No, it means that, hey, if we can get away, awesome. Or if we can contact local law enforcement to get some help on that one, then that's going to be a good thing. Like I said, common sense is critical. I tell my students all the time, when you're carrying a firearm, it's not a shooting game. It's a thinking game. We have a responsibility to come up with last-minute, desperate solutions to problems created by other people. And it's important to understand that we will be held accountable for our actions. And who are going to be held accountable to? A jury of our peers. Juries that are formed by drawing individuals from our community to represent our community on what would be a reasonable response if any one of those jurors was in the same situation that we're in.
All right, so I'm obviously not the tallest guy in the world. I'm about 5'6". Some guy is not armed, but let's say he's buff, he's 6'5". I'm going to wring your neck if you don't give me your wallet. In that particular case, what about that?
That's something called subject-victim factors. There's a lot of things that come into play on that one. A good example that I give, not to use you, but
no, that's fine.
Let's say there's a female that is 5'1".
Great.
135 pounds. Would it be reasonable to assume that she's going to have to use more force if she's being attacked by someone who doesn't have a weapon, but they are 6'3", 280 pounds, and look like a linebacker for the New England Patriots?
Sure.
Of course. And like I said, a jury would look at that situation for what it is and say, okay, it's completely justified that she would have to use more force, i.e. a firearm or a less lethal weapon like a OC pepper spray or something else like that to defend herself.
All right, so if you're in that situation and you or anyone is in that situation and they are, faced with an assailant, what should they be? I mean, because this is a flash decision that you're making here. I mean, when you go through the three different factors, I mean, we're talking about a pretty quick decision that a person is making. And if you make the wrong decision, this is the kind of thing that's going to send you to jail and destroy your life.
Absolutely. And, what I'd really kind of like to reference on this one is justification versus necessity. You may be justified in using force, but was it necessary? And that's kind of a key critical factor in that use of force situation. You're never going to know when you're in that situation. You're going to be minding your own business. Even if you're, in contact with the person that's threatening to use force, generally it's a routine and fairly innocuous contact that you have with the person. And so another thing that we need to default on is the fact that you need to decide before you start carrying a weapon, do you have the mental maturity to make that decision to fight for your life? And do you have the mental maturity to understand that our actions, if you use force, are going to have a ripple effect on those people in our community? Think about it like this. The person that we end up using force against, they have people that love them and care about them. We have people that love us and care about us. So at that point, we also have the community factor. And so our decisions are going to affect, a very large amount of people. And so it's critical to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And, the only way that we're going to be able to know that we're doing the right thing is by thinking about it before we do it.
Donovan Beard joining us on the Wake Up Call with Defensive Firearms Instruction. By the way, thank you for your service. We didn't bring that up earlier when we were kind of on that topic. Let's talk about somebody in your house. Because that's always, I've heard so many different well, if somebody broke into your house and they've stepped over the threshold of your door, you're good to go opening fire. And how threatened are you? What is that particular line?
So, do we have a mandate to retreat legally in the state of Oregon? No. To the best of my knowledge, we don't. However, if we're still using that means, opportunity, and intent mentality, that's going to be the better way to deal with things. Because the last thing that we want to see is more stories of, somebody hearing a bump in the night, walking downstairs with a handgun and seeing someone coming through their window, firing, and only to find out that it was their juvenile child that was sneaking back in the house after the fact. So, one of the things I constantly tell my students is if you have the opportunity to be where the bad guy isn't, that's definitely going to be the best way to deal with things. Or contact local law enforcement. Local law enforcement definitely deals with situations like this on a regular basis, and they have a lot more training to be able to support making a good decision that's backed by organized statutes, and so that's going to be the better way to do things. It's one thing to just walk up and say, well, if somebody walks into my house, I'm just going to shoot him, but there's more to it than that. We ultimately, after that type of an action, we're going to have to live with our decisions for the rest of our life. And one of the hard things that people are going to have to deal with if they're in that situation is margin calls. Did I make the right decision? Did I make the wrong decision? That's, something that they're going to have to live with for the rest of their lives.
Okay, so let's say that you actually do have that person, though, that is in your house. How justified are you in using deadly force at that point?
If you have established that person has the means, opportunity, and intent to cause you or a third party death or serious physical injury, and you feel that your life or someone else's life is in danger, then I'd say defend yourself to the best of your abilities.
When we talk about physical injury, what level of physical injury are we talking about?
Well, think of it like this, deadly force.
Deadly force is obvious. If somebody has a gun, they can kill you very easily. A knife, the same kind of thing, even a baseball bat.
So we couple death and serious physical injury together. We group it together because if I have a firearm and I am shooting at someone, is that capable of causing death? Absolutely. But if I only hit you in the big toe, is that going to cause serious physical injury? Sure. And so we look at it as, the difference between a dangerous weapon and a deadly weapon. A deadly weapon is a weapon that's capable of causing death or serious physical injury.
Okay. Again, you do not only concealed carry training, but also training for folks, security guards, and a variety of other things like that. Generally, are the statutes here in Oregon, are they applied the same way across the board, or is it dependent upon who happens to be the DA in what particular county as to whether they want to take it in front of a jury or not?
When we're looking at private citizens versus private security in response to Oregon revised statutes, it's the same rules, the same guidelines. A private security officer, whether armed or unarmed, still follows the same rules that a private citizen does. In fact, a private security officer has the same restrictions as a private citizen. A private security officer is a private citizen and is held accountable for the same actions.
I don't know that. Well, this is a question off the email, but I'm not sure that you could even answer this question. How many Springfield police officers trained with Gerald? That's the individual that was involved in the shooting at his MMA center. Fair ? I don't even know that you would even be able to answer that. Why would you be able to?
I have no idea. All the information I have on that specific situation is probably the same information that you have. So
right. Well, that's one of the reasons why I haven't even really asked you about that, because until we know the situation, how would you know? I mean, a lot of people are asking the question. How is it that there is only one gun on the scene? The guy's an MMA fighter. He's a former Marine. He's pretty buff and cut and so on and so forth, much younger than the person that ended up dead. How could this other person be a threat? I guess that might be how would legally that person have been a threat if they were unarmed? I mean, okay, not specifically, let's use kind of the circumstances, but not specifically that case. You've got somebody, let's say you, Okay, you're a pretty buff guy. You're a Marine. You know how to use a gun. Let's say hypothetically you have one on you. You and I have a car wreck. Here I am, this 52-year-old, 5'6" guy. What without a weapon? What would I have to do to rise to the level where you would go, okay, this dude's a threat. I need to take care of this threat immediately. And I'm going to use deadly force to do it. What level would I have to get to?
That is a really tough question. When we're talking about that, like I said, let's go back to means, opportunity, and intent.
Right.
Does the person have a weapon? Do they have something that can be used as a weapon? Are they demonstrating their intention to use it? If they do, then okay, then I could see how that may be a justified shooting. However, like I said, with this specific situation, there are so many underlying factors, and there are so many pieces of the puzzle that the public hasn't even seen yet that are going to contribute.
Totally. That's why I'm asking, for me to get to the level, I mean, you and I just sitting here, I don't have no weapon, I have nothing. At what level of threat would I have to get to before you would go, this guy is crazy. I think I need to escalate here to that point. I guess that's what I try to wrap my head around.
Yeah, and to be completely honest, I don't see it. I really don't. It could. Here's another thing.
Just screaming at you. Donovan, I'm going to kill you. Yeah. You've made me angry. I'm going to kill you, Donovan. Just screaming that doesn't necessarily make me a threat.
No, I mean, it's, like I said, it's one of those things. You're not going to know how to deal with the situation until you're in it and you're, 3 steps in. So, I mean, it's so complex. And, here's the thing. There's a lot of gray areas and there's a lot of things that you're going to be thinking about, and you got to make that decision quickly. But understand that, that decision that you make is going to be, ripped apart and dissected and looked at, in every detail, and what you do needs to be a good decision. Like I said, it's got to be backed by the individuals from a community that say a reasonable person, i.e. a juror. If I was in that same situation as a juror, would I have done what that person did? And, if you have doubts, there is no doubt. If you have doubts, don't do it. But like I said, if you're yelling at me and, screaming at me and threatening me, you know what I'm probably going to do? I'm probably going to walk away. Because that's the smarter thing to do. Go call someone. Let somebody else deal with the situation.
Donovan Beard on the Wake Up Call. Defensive Firearms Instruction. You can find out more by going on the web, defensivefirearmsinstruction.org. And you can find out how you can email Donovan here if you want to take classes or any of the other things. Donovan, thanks for being with us on the Wake Up Call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Bill, Rob, thanks again for having me.
You take care. 844 News Radio, 1120 KPNW.